All right, we're joined by Dave Kaval, A's president, and Dave is joining us now to read over all 3,500 pages of the EIR. Dave, I'll let you start.
All right, I'll get started here. We're going to be here for some time. It's like a filibuster. So yeah.
Anyways, this is a big milestone in the Oakland waterfront ballpark project. You know, we've seen a lot of renderings. We have seen very few, if any, EIRs being released. So what does this mean to the project?
Well, it's a tremendous milestone. 3 years of hard work and dedicated effort. The city, the consultants, our own internal real estate team to get the final EIR released. Like you said, over 3,000 pages, responding to 500 comments. And now we have something that can lead to a binding vote of the city council. So we're very excited to be at this stage. It's a great moment for the project. We're not all the way there, but it's an important milestone to celebrate and focus on key next steps.
Yeah, so January 19th, there can be a planning commission hearing. The certification can come as early as February. So as Mayor Schaaf says, you are on time to get to binding votes before the end of 2022, which is a huge thing for you guys. So do you feel now at this point, with everything that's transpired in this year, that things are actually starting to move on the timeline you want?
Well, I think it's great momentum to have the environmental report out. I think it's going to be nice to have a defined date where we can have a binding vote. That's not out there yet. We only have the first planning commission vote date. So I think it's going to be important to continue to work together in good faith with the city to achieve that on a timeline that makes sense for everybody.
Now, one thing that needs to happen after the EIR certification is a development agreement needs to be finalized. So I know that you're meeting regularly with the city of Oakland and the Oakland officials, but how is that going? Are you guys making progress? Are you close to coming to terms on a development agreement now that you do have the affirmative but non-binding votes from the city council and the Alameda County Board of Supervisors? How does that help that?
Well, I mean, having all the support of the different agencies is critical because they're different approval bodies and they bring with them different funding sources. So Casey, those things are super important. It's also important to recognize that we're spending numerous hours a week negotiating. We have a negotiating team internally stood up. We have our general counsel, Delondra Ellis. We have our outside counsel. They have their team. So a lot of work is going into it. And I think it's really critical now that we bring, the best proposal that we can make to the city council as soon as possible. So the public policy experts and authorities can weigh in if it works. And so we're trying to advance that as quickly as we can. And we're working with the city to achieve that.
Now, the city did vote on 720 on their proposal, not the proposal you guys initially came up with. In a way, the ball has been in their court to come up with the ways that they can back that proposal. They got the county on board. They say that they're able to raise the money for the offsite infrastructure. So when you're talking about that proposal, is that the city's proposal or your proposal that you're looking to get voted on? Because everything seems to be going forward with the city's side on this, right?
Well, it has to be a proposal we agree with and that works for our business. And, we laid out one that worked. The city had a different one, and it needs to achieve the goals we need financially to make sense for the investment of billions of dollars in private capital. And we're hopeful that we can get there. There's been a lot of good progress with things like the offsite infrastructure and the dollars, but that needs to be written down in legal language, put in an exhibit in a development agreement that's binding. And the teams are doing that right now.
Okay, so that's good to hear. I know that last time we spoke, it was a little while ago because, again, the ball has kind of been in the city's court on this phase. But, you'd said one of the biggest, if not the biggest hangup was that $352+ million. And they're saying they have it covered already, if not in excess. So what else is there that could be a hangup at this point?
Well, obviously, infrastructure is a big piece. Community benefits is a big piece. The phasing plan and when things are built on what timelines is important. And how it relates to the ballpark, which comes in phase 0. So all those things are still being worked out, and they need to work out in a way where we can actually open the stadium as soon as possible too, that the timing of actually opening it doesn't get pushed so far out after everything else is built that it hurts our ability to be successful as a baseball team. So those are the factors that we're weighing, and we're going to do everything we can to hopefully get to a positive resolution as soon as we can, because we just really need to know.
Now, I was looking at some of the other timelines like Levi's Stadium. Obviously, it's a little bit different for the Warriors at Chase Center. It's a much smaller venue. But, if you guys did get everything figured out this year. Do you see it possible to break ground sometime in 2024, which is coincidentally when the lease expires at the Oakland Coliseum?
It would really be up to the city, because some of the negotiation we're doing around phasing and timing is around when certain things are built in what order. So we're obviously pushing for things to be quicker. And we're hopeful that we'll get a positive response on that key point.
All right. And then lastly, is there anything that kind of popped up in the EIR? I know that looking at the release, it's not very different from the draft, and that is because they'd have to recirculate the whole thing if there were any major changes. So was there anything that kind of popped up in your mind while looking at it? I'm assuming you read all 3,500 pages.
Oh yes, every page. I mean, I think it shows the thoroughness of the entire approach, how the environmental standards are extremely high, whether it's the greenhouse gas neutrality, air quality, like all the things that we're doing on the project beyond the ballpark. Those things are really important, and we care about those things. That's going to help West Oakland. And so the fact that that's continued through the entire project and it's here at the end and it could be voted on, I think is very reassuring.
All right, you recently ran a half marathon. This is not that. This is a full marathon, Dave. So what mile marker are we at here towards breaking ground?
Well, I think the hardest part of these processes, I know from like when we did the one in San Jose, is getting the political approval. And so I think getting that binding vote of the city council is really the key to this whole project. And that's why we're pushing so hard to have it happen as soon as possible.
So you can't give me a mile?
Well, I'm saying we're many miles in. We're many miles in, but we have some good runners on our side. So
all right, Dave, thank you very much for joining.
Thanks so much, guys.
I know you're busy, and obviously we'll stay in touch as this thing moves on.
All right, happy holidays.
You too.